Doctor Who. So put your hands together and bring them on out.
Hi. Good morning. Welcome to another day of Miami rain. I'm very sorry. Either I brought it, or Jenna, or Billy. I don't know which one of us, but I'm blaming them.
All right, so before we take some questions, I'd like to do something. If you are in Doctor Who cosplay, I would like you to come to the front of the stage so we can get a good look at you and people can take some pictures. And I'm looking at you specifically right over there. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can just line up right here.
Very good. Let me
Right to the front over here.
Let me unpick this scarf.
Cool.
Now that you look particularly good.
Yeah,
madam,
right?
if I might say so.
She's killing it. Fantastic. Nice. Wow.
Gosh.
Oh, you look great.
Very good TARDISes.
Very nice.
Yeah. TARDI.
All right. If you'd like to take some photos, now's the time to do it.
My family. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, guys. You can exit off the stage right over here. Please be careful. Oh, wow, it works as well. Wow. That's incredible. Well, thank you, guys. All right, if you have questions for Peter, I think you guys know what to do. Line up behind this microphone right here.
Hi.
Hello. I've just been curious. When you first joined and began being the Doctor, how did it feel for the first time being the Doctor?
Very strange, because I was the first Doctor, first actor to play the part who'd grown up watching the series. So it was quite an important part of my life. I wouldn't say I was, a super fan, but I'd certainly followed William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton, and so it was very strange to be stepping on board.
Was it like a thrill?
Yeah, yeah, definitely a thrill. Yes, I mean, I likened it once to playing in the street when you're a child. Suddenly you really are saving the universe every week. So yeah, it was great.
Thank you.
Hi. Do you have any strange fan interaction stories?
That's a great question.
Strange? How strange do you mean?
Strangest one off the top of your head.
I don't know if I have any strange fan. I mean, I've been doing these conventions for many, many years, and it's you're a strange bunch. No, you're a lovely bunch.
What about working with David Tennant on the special, the David Tennant?
How was it? Oh, David Tennant as a fan. Yes, David as a fan. That's probably actually is my strangest fan interaction, is actually David Tennant.
Yeah.
Because, I didn't realize the first time I worked with him was in something called Mrs. Bradley Mysteries. And I didn't know he was a Doctor Who fan at that point. And then, of course, I did Time Crash with him, and because of the script, Stephen Moffat gave me the script. He said, "Well, David is a fan, and he remembers, watching you as the Doctor." And but it was great working with him. It was lovely, and I was slightly unnerved by the fact he then sneakily went off and married my daughter, which
Keeping it in the family.
is a pretty extreme way of getting close to your Doctor. But no, he's great. But no, I mean, you know, when we started doing these conventions, I started in Florida, actually, many years ago, in Fort Lauderdale. Yes, and they were very small affairs then, and we just used to. Now, in the modern day thing, and it's a shame in a way. We're kept very separate. In the old days, we just used to hang out all the time. We just used to go down to the bar in the evening and just, you know. And then someone would say, "Oh, there's a party in room 539," and so we go up to the party in 539. I won't tell you what went on there, but anyway, no. But it was all very nice, and they were all very small, but it was great. Sorry, we moved on.
Hi.
Hi.
In New Doctor Who, what would you say, like, is your opinion about it?
Do I like it, you mean? Yes, I do. I mean, when it went off the air, I remember being asked many, many times about if I thought it would come back. And I always believed it would do, because it just took somebody to think that bringing it back was a good idea. Now, it was Russell T Davies who really brought it back. And it came back in a far more prestigious, as a far more prestigious program than it was when we made it. And it had a bigger budget, and the BBC paid it more attention. And there are certain things that I love about the classic series which they don't do in the new series. I am a bit envious of their special effects. We used to struggle a bit. I miss in a way the 4 episode. I miss the sort of cliffhanger at the end of the 4 episodes, and sometimes the stories, I think, can tend to be a bit like almost like a pop promo. You know, it's all very, very quick and quick fire. It's almost like shortcut television sometimes. So I prefer the 2-part stories to the 1-part stories, for example. I think sometimes they don't give themselves enough time to tell the story. But I do think it's great, and I think all the doctors have been excellent.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Hi, Peter.
Hello.
So I think that every doctor has something new to offer, and to me, that's the beauty of Doctor Who. So I would like to know what you think your doctor brought as new. Like, did your doctor set any precedents in his entire arc?
Well, in a way, what I wanted, my first thought was I wanted to bring something old to the series, because what I felt that it had lost from the time I watched it, which was the first 2 Doctors, was I felt the Doctor was no longer quite as vulnerable, and he was a little more certain about what he was doing, and I just wanted to bring an element of uncertainty and a self-doubt, if you like, back into the series. It wasn't necessarily a new thought. I mean, the only new thing I can claim to have brought to it is that I could move a little faster than the older Doctors, which was quite useful. I used to change direction a lot while we were running away from things. So little things like that. But essentially, I wanted to bring back a bit of what I felt it had been when I watched it, when Patrick Troughton especially, who was my doctor, who I think had a fantastic quality of sort of self-doubt, not quite sure what he was doing, what he was doing was for the best.
Patrick Troughton made me cry at the end.
Oh.
So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Davison.
Morning.
First of all, I wanted to thank you so much for the 5-ish Doctors reboot. It was totally wonderful, and we really did appreciate it for the 50th anniversary.
Thank you.
And I was recently in Britain, and I saw a documentary that you did on the Thames River on BBC, and I was wondering if you're going to do any more documentaries like that. It was very enjoyable.
I don't know. You know, it's not something I've ever thought that I was particularly good at, but I did enjoy doing that. They just came to me and said, you know, do you have a subject which is of particular interest to you? And I said, well, I live by the river, and 2 years ago the River Thames flooded very badly, and so I wanted to talk about that. But I've no plans to. And the Doctor Who, I did a Doctor Who documentary about the year of the anniversary, and that was quite enjoyable to do. I got to interview Peter Capaldi. I've not really thought about that. I suppose if the acting work dries up, I'll go into documentaries. I don't know. But thank you very much about the Five-ish reboot, actually. I do appreciate that. Who here hasn't seen the Five Doctors reboot, Five-ish Doctors reboot? You've all seen it? You don't know what it is, right? No. Oh, look it up. Yeah, go to the BBC website. I think it's still available. Is it still available? Can you get it over here? I'm never quite sure if you can see it. In Britain, it's still available on the BBC website, and you can watch it.
I think Hulu, we have a thing called Hulu over here, and they have a whole BBC section, and I think it may be on there.
Oh, right. Okay, excellent. Okay. Yes. Hello.
Hi.
Should we adjust the microphone for you? Could someone just push that microphone down? Sorry.
There we go.
There you go.
What's it like in the TARDIS?
How truthful do you want me to be? In the TARDIS, depending on if you start on the outside and go inside, it's very small. But once you're on the inside, it's very big. But actually, when we have it on location, we don't have the real TARDIS, we just have the police box. And sometimes we have to fit as many as 6 or 7 people in there. It can get a little cramped. And we're very keen to get into the studio where the TARDIS suddenly becomes much bigger. But it's nice. I was very impressed with the new TARDIS, in the new series. Our TARDIS was mainly a set, it wasn't quite as elaborate as the new TARDIS is. It wasn't multi-leveled and a permanent set. But it's very cozy. You've never seen my bedroom, though, do you? I've often wondered about that. You saw Tegan and Nyssa and Adric's bedroom, but I don't know where I sleep. I think I must just bed down underneath the TARDIS console or something. But yeah, it's nice. It's good. Thank you. Sorry. I didn't know whether I didn't want to break the reality. I didn't want to ruin everything. I found myself in a difficult situation there. It's like talking about Santa Claus. Anyway, go on. Sorry, I didn't say that. Next question. Thanks.
All right. Of all the episodes that you were in, which one was your favorite?
In the end, my favorite was Caves of Androzani, which was the very last story.
Okay.
I did turn into Colin Baker at the end of it, but even that didn't spoil it. I just thought it was a very well-written story. It was great. Everyone in it was very good, and it was directed brilliantly by Graham Harper. And up until that point, I think Earthshock was my favorite.
Okay. Also, besides yourself, which Doctor do you like best?
Again, a difficult question. Okay, my Doctor was Patrick Troughton.
Okay.
I have a certain fondness for certain of the later Doctors. Because he's very good to my daughter. So I wouldn't say a word against him. And he was no, I think Patrick and David Tennant would be my favourite Doctors.
Okay.
But that's not to say I'm putting down any of the others. I mean, I think Peter Capaldi is fantastic as well. So I love all. I mean, to be honest with you, anyone I never really watched, and this is, I know that he's going to be really cross. They'll never show him this videotape. Is Colin. I never really watched Colin because it's a strange thing when you leave the series. You don't kind of watch the next Doctor. So I don't think Colin ever watched Sylvester. So you tend not to know much about the Doctor immediately after you. Someday I'm going to have to sit down and watch Colin Baker episodes. If I ever forgive him for shooting me, actually. Didn't he? He started off by shooting me and then took my job. Very questionable.
Okay, thank
you.
you.
Hi.
Well, so the only episode I've ever seen by you would be the Five-ish Doctors, and how did it feel to be in that?
The actual Five-ish Doctors,
Yeah.
with the older Doctors. Yeah, no, it was great. I was only slightly disappointed by the producer, John Nathan Turner, felt that there would be too many egos bouncing around in the TARDIS if they had us all together for too much of the time. So we were largely kept separate. I didn't get to meet them in story terms until quite late on in the story. But actually, we all got on really well. There was no problem at all. Apart from one of the doctors who chose not to appear. Well, one, of course, had died. William Hartnell was no longer alive, so we had a very good actor to play his part, and we asked Tom if he'd do it, but I think he was sort of suffering post-Whovian stress, so he couldn't really face the idea of coming back, and I can understand that entirely. So for the photo call for the Five Doctors, we did a photo call with a Madame Tussauds waxwork of Tom. You can still see those pictures somewhere. I'm sure you've seen them. They're very funny. And they used a clip of Tom from Sharda, which was an incomplete episode. But no, it was great to do. I'd love to have done more stuff with the actual doctors because, of course, Patrick was, as I've already said, was my doctor. So it was great. It was great.
Thank you.
What would you say was your best experience during your time that you played the role, and what would you say was the worst experience during that time?
My best experience. My worst experience was, I don't remember the name of the story now. It was the same story that Colin Baker shot me in when I was in Gallifrey, and they put me in the middle of this a strange machine and said where it puts carbon dioxide to make me disappear into a mist of things, and sort of forgetting that you can't actually breathe. If you're only breathing carbon dioxide, you die, basically. And they'd overlooked that very minor point. So in the end, I held on for as long as I could, and I just had to break out of the machine that the carbon dioxide was in. And the other one was a similar experience of having to dive into a vat of freezing cold water. And your voice really does go up 2 octaves. It's extraordinary. But there were always minor problems with Doctor Who. We were always up against the clock. We had a bad experience when we couldn't finish one of the episodes because they turned off the machines at 10 o'clock. The unions used to be very powerful, and particularly unions, and so they would just stop recording in the middle of the scene. And we were always up against the clock with Doctor Who because we were doing a show that involved special effects, if you'd like to call them that. My best experience, I don't know, my best experience, I suppose, was when we used to set the TARDIS up in the middle of some unsuspecting village in the heart of England. And within 5 minutes, people would come out of their houses and just look in amazement at this police box, which had just landed on the village green as far as they were concerned. And then, of course, I would turn up as the Doctor. It's just an awesome thing. People invite you into their huse and make you cups of tea and ask you to take them back in time and things like that. It's just a great feeling of power, and you get a great waft of love that comes in your direction when you're playing the Doctor.
Okay, and one last question. How did you get that role for Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Well, they wanted someone, my then wife, is that right? My then wife, yes. My then wife was in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy playing Trillian, and they were having a conversation in the rehearsal room one day, and they said about the dish of the day. They said, we want someone who is very well known, but is stupid enough not to mind if they're never seen. And she said, oh, Peter will do it. And so that's how I ended up doing it. But I was very happy to do it. I loved the radio series. I was a big fan of the radio series. So.
Thanks.
Thanks.
What's your favorite episode with Nyssa?
Favorite episode with Nyssa.
Mm-hmm.
That's I can tell you which one it was. It's actually it's actually the one when she leaves, and I can't remember what's it called? What? No, not Castrovalva. No. Terminus. Thank you very much indeed. Yes. Because it was kind of poignant. I didn't really want Nyssa to go actually, because I always liked the character of Nyssa, and John Nathan Turner and I had a slight disagreement about the nature of companions, and I understood his point. He was desperately all the time trying to make companions interesting, but he made them interesting in ways that I didn't think was really the right way to do it. He wanted to make them interesting, for example, in Turlough's case, by having him trying to kill me all the time. And I just thought, what you should be doing is writing an interesting character, not writing an attitude. And I think Tegan suffered from having an attitude. All the ingredients were there for making a great character, but they never actually wrote the good character, in my opinion. But Nyssa, I just thought complimented the Doctor, so I was rather sad to see her go. And Terminus is the one I remember, because that's one she left in.
Okay. And then how is it like working for the Last Detective series?
How was it working on the... I love doing that. I was very keen to do that. I like the idea of a harmless detective rather than a kind of aggressive, smash you in the face, kill you with a gun detective. And so I love doing it. And sometimes we didn't even have a murder, which I thought was no, they were just nice stories, and they were funny, but they were, they weren't comedy, but they were funny as well as being interesting, I think. So I love doing that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Hello. Do you think they're going to bring Georgina back as the Doctor's doctor in any future episodes?
Georgia.
Georgina.
Yes. I don't know. She is still out there flying around the universe. So I think at any point they could. I see Stephen Moffat every so often, and I keep trying to nudge him in that direction without actually saying, "Give my daughter a job, you." But he was the one. I mean, in a way, I'm surprised they haven't taken it further, because he was the one who kind of saved her life, Stephen Moffat, because originally in that story, the character died at the end.
Yeah.
She died, you see her die, she gets shot, and that's the way they were going to film it. And then, as I understand it, then Stephen Moffat intervened and said, hang on a minute, could you not kill her? Could you send her off into space? So that's what they did. So I thought, that must mean he had plans. And maybe it will happen. Yeah. As soon as she gets over the minor inconvenience of bringing up 4 children, I think it's entirely possible that she'll be flying around the universe.
And what was your initial reaction when you found out that she got the part?
Well, it was funny because she actually got 2 parts in the series. She got a part in an earlier story in that same season, and. But they said to her, we'd like to offer you this part, but if you wait for a bit longer and later in the season, there's a much better part for you. So she rang me up and said, what should I do? I said, well, I guess wait for the nicer part. Yeah. So she waited, and then when the part came up, of course, it was a script called The Doctor's Daughter. And I thought, it's not a nicer part, it's just a better title. Because you've got the Doctor's daughter playing the Doctor's daughter. Anyway, so I was excited for her, because she actually originally, although she wasn't in contention, but she went up for the part of the companion right at the beginning, the part that Billy played for Rose. I mean, she was never in. It wasn't like she was in contention. She, like thousands of others or hundreds of others, went up for it. But it was just very nice that a couple of years down the line, she actually got a part in it.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Hello.
Hi.
Which sonic screwdriver do you like the most out of the Doctors after you?
Which sonic screwdriver?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've only real hands-on experience with my sonic screwdriver, apart from the versions which my children bought of David's and Matt's sonic screwdriver, which were very impressive because they make lovely noises and flick open and you can point them at people. And mine didn't do any of that. We just didn't have the technology. And of course, then the pterodactyls destroyed it. So I have a sort of, I suppose I'd have to be loyal and say mine. Mine is the favorite. It doesn't do much, but it kind of looks cool.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
On tiptoes. I'll stand on tiptoes for you, see if I can get it right.
There we go. If you could choose any episode to live in real life, which one would it be?
Oh, right, okay. Is this not necessary? Do you mean, actually, if I could deposit myself where the episode was set for the rest of my life? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Does it have to be one of mine episodes?
No.
Okay. I'd rather like to go back to the Shakespearean one, you know, that David did, and hang around there. And then what I'd really like to do would be to ask Queen Elizabeth what she was talking about at the end of that story. Because I've got no idea, because they didn't really, I'm not wrong about it, they didn't follow that up, really, did they? She suddenly ran around the corner saying, hey, you stop. And I thought, well, this obviously is going to lead to something, and it never really did. So I'd like to stay around and ask her, after the TARDIS dematerializes, what's up? What's going on? Why are you shouting at my future son-in-law? I don't know. So that would, I'd like to live in Shakespearean times. It would be good.
Thank you.
Cheers, thank you.
Did you really want to play the Doctor?
I never thought about playing the Doctor because I never thought it would be possible for me to play the Doctor. When I became an actor, I often thought about getting a part in Doctor Who because, you know, it was a great series and there were lots of nice parts coming up. I never expected to actually be offered the Doctor. And indeed, when I was offered it, I was kind of speechless. There was a long pause. John Nathan Turner said, you know, how do you feel about being the next Doctor? And I sort of went, and my wife in the background said, is there a part for me? But no, I never dreamt about possibly playing the Doctor. So, but yeah, when I actually offered it, I thought, yes, I would actually like to do it.
Hi.
Hi.
You've done a lot of other TV shows that were really good. I loved Fiddler's 3. Very funny comedy.
Well, thank you.
I've been looking for Sink or Swim everywhere. Cannot find it.
No,
anywhere.
I don't think it's available. It's a shame. I think it's quite a good series.
But and you did All Creatures Great and Small and stuff. But you said that Patrick Troughton was your doctor. What did you think of when you did a very peculiar practice with his son?
Yeah.
How did that work? 'Cause
it was just great.
it was a great show.
Yeah, yeah. And David is a great actor. He's really good, and he's growing more and more like his father as the years go by. But yeah, no, we talked about it because it was quite interesting to talk about him, you know, growing up with his father as the Doctor. A bit like my daughter was grew up with her father as a doctor. He was just terrific. I mean, he doesn't really do many appearances now, conventions or anything, but he would have some great stories to tell if he did. I must persuade him.
One other thing, is Law and Order UK coming back?
Not as far as I know. Law and Order, no, I don't.
So Series 8 was it? Series 8 was it?
If that's what it was, I'm not even sure which series it was. Was it Series 8? Yes, I think so. The last time, they did sort of cancel it before, and then they decided they wanted to make some more. So it's not impossible, but I've not heard anything for a couple of years. So I think probably it's not coming back.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello. Now, that's a problem. Very good.
TARDIS.
Which was my favourite TARDIS of all the TARDI that there have been. Do you mean the favourite TARDIS? Well, that's interesting. I did get to, of course, I got to do Time Crash on David, the 10th Doctor's TARDIS, and I got to film this Five-ish Doctors reboot a bit on the 11th Doctor's TARDIS. That's right, isn't it? Yes. Okay, just checking. But I think I did like Matt Smith's TARDIS actually. I thought that was good. It was a fantastic set. The later TARDIS sets were permanent sets. They didn't take them apart at the end of the filming. So I thought I loved that. It was multi-leveled and you could hide underneath things, and so. But any of them, the later ones, I like. But I have a fondness. Somebody rebuilt my TARDIS actually, my TARDIS console, with all the little buttons that didn't actually do anything. I didn't have enough fiddly bits on mine. I only had a few levers. I like the bits you can move around. So I would say probably Matt Smith's TARDIS, I think, is the most impressive. It's like these funny like helicopter things going around above your head as well. Thank you. Is that all right? I haven't really satisfied you, have I? I feel rather
She's
bad.
like, that'll do, I guess.
Is she all right? Is it all right? Sorry.
Hello.
Hi.
I was meaning to ask, do you ever miss being in that big blue box of yours, and would you ever want to go back in it?
I don't really miss it, no. But somebody asked me yesterday if I was asked to, come back into the series. Of course I'd do it. Yeah, it's absolutely like a shot. I mean, I've a great fondness for it. I still do. But I think it's highly unlikely that they'll ask me. But I would absolutely do it. But I don't really miss it. I don't yearn to be back in it. But maybe that would change if I was offered it. I could be the oldest Doctor ever. I could have been the youngest and then the oldest. That would be a good idea, wouldn't it? And then I could just do it until I keeled over.
Also, one last question. If you could change the interior of the TARDIS as you wanted it, what would you change it to be like?
Well, I'm sort of referring back to the answer I previously gave. I love the problem with our TARDIS was it was a flat studio set, and it was just brought in and they stuck up the flats, and there was an impermanence about it. I would like to use my console but have multi-levels and staircases and things like that, and also not so much light. There was a one particular scene we would do, I remember, and I said to John at the time it happened, but as part of the TARDIS crashing, the lights failed. They turned the lights down, and instantly it looked 100 times better, that set. There was just too much light. They overlit everything. If they just lit it in a slightly more intelligent way with lights at the sides, all these massive lights over your head.
My eyes, they burn.
Yeah, exactly. So and when the lights went off, it looked great. And then, of course, it came back on and it looked, average again.
All right, thank you.
Cheers, thank you.
How did your outfit get the celery on it? Did someone just look at your outfit and go, you know what that needs? Some celery.
Almost exactly that. You've almost exactly answered the question. What happened was that we decided, I didn't decide anything. I was shown the outfit as it was designed. I suggested it might be nice to have it something to do with cricket, because I was rather fond of cricket. Incidentally, if anyone wants me to explain the rules of cricket later, I will happily give you the 5-hour course. But I rather like cricket, so they came up with this sort of vaguely cricketing outfit. And then John Nathan Turner said, I just want to put something rather eccentric on your lapel. Let me think about it. So I said, okay, fine. So he went away and he came back about a week later and said, I've got a great idea, a stick of celery. And I said, great. Why? And he said, I have no idea. And so I said, well, if you explain it before I leave the series, That's fine. So that's what we agreed on. So I wore the celery, which incidentally, if anyone wants to dress up as me, was not real. It was fake celery. I'm destroying everyone's illusions here, aren't I?
Terrible.
Okay, so I got to the very last story, Caves of Androzani, and I suddenly remembered that he had never explained it. So I went to the script editor and said, you've got to explain it. That was the deal. So they came up with this. Actually, it was a rather good explanation in the last episode of Caves of Androzani as to why I wore the celery. It turns out it was very important all along. Saved my life. Well, actually, didn't save my life, did it? No, it turned me into Colin Baker. It was the worst idea anyone ever had. Instead, I saved Nicola Bryant. What was I thinking?
Thank you.
I'm in so much trouble.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you very much for coming.
Pleasure.
And speaking of the celery, I was wondering, have you ever tried celery? If so, what do you think?
I don't like celery. I really don't like it. I've tried many years. I know it's meant to be very good for you, but I just don't like it. In fact, there's a scene, I think, in the Castrovalva, where I walk into this room, there's food all over the table, and there's a sort of little vase of celery. And I go, celery. And I take a bite. And what you don't see as the camera cuts away is me going, just doesn't taste right. I don't know. There you go.
I can't imagine a better question to end on. So, so how about a round of applause for Peter? Thank you for all your questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Before we go, we are going to take a group picture. So if you would like to come up to the front of the stage.